Hi there. My name is Molly Deneen, and I'm delighted that you've chosen to share some of your day with us. I am representing University College Dublin, and I'll talk a little bit about what is University College Dublin, who are we, and why might we be a good fit for you to come over and study in some capacity. So thanks again for being here with us today, and please know that we're going to keep this nice and kind of casual. So if you have anything that you'd like to ask me throughout the presentation, feel free to type those questions in. I'll try to get to as many as I can. Some I might hold off for because they'll be answered later in the presentation. But let's keep this nice and interactive. And again, thank you so much for coming out, and I'm delighted to be here. So to start us off, this is a bit about me. I was a student myself. I'm originally from the state of Ohio, and I studied in Ireland, had a wonderful experience, and decided to kind of work in a capacity where I could help other students coming from North America to explore their options of a degree or a study abroad or a postgraduate degree um, over in Ireland. So I want to highlight my contact information there. Even after this presentation, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. We can have a phone conversation, Skype conversation, and some of you I've spoken to throughout the day through College Week Live chats, which is great as well. So thanks for making it back if that's the case for you. I'm also, I should highlight, based out of New York. So unlike what you might expect, you don't have to call Dublin if you have any questions. And in fact, I kind of travel a lot, so who knows when I might even be in your area. So be sure to let me know if you have specific questions so I might address them. So the areas of study that you can do at UCD are quite varied. We do have a high school summer program, which I'll mention a bit later in the presentation, predominantly for students going into their junior or senior year of high school. We have full degree undergraduate students that come to us from all over the world. In addition, we have an immense amount of study abroad students who come over for maybe an academic semester, a year, an internship over the summer, or a summer short-term program. On top of that, of course, we have a very robust international student population who join us in postgraduate work. We have master's, diplomas, up to PhDs, and as a research institution, I think you'll find that it's a great opportunity to tap into some expertise while taking in the city of Dublin as well. So why are you here? What brought you here? I think one thing that might surprise you is that when polled, 70% of U.S. high school seniors say that they would like to study abroad at some point during their college career. Of that, this drops significantly. Only 1% actually does do that. So why is that the case? What happens? And so I think a lot of it might be some basic misunderstandings of the system, and I'm going to hopefully dispel a lot of those today. Looks like we already have our first question, and so before I thank you for the question coming in, and before I go on to the presentation, I'm just going to take this one. This is a question saying, do I have to live in Ireland for some time to be accepted? That's a great question, and I'd love to say that's one of our myths, so it goes very well, I think, with this slide anyhow. Absolutely not. We have students that come to us who are nationals and citizens of over 125 different countries around the world. It makes us a very international student population, and actually 1 out of 4 students that you'd meet on campus would not be from Ireland. So you would not be alone in considering doing your degree and applying and getting accepted to study at UCD. We accept applications from every nation in the world, and so that's absolutely not a barrier. So looking at some of the myths that we have, one myth I think is that people think to do a degree abroad might be completely unaffordable. I think you'll find that that's not the case. And in fact, when compared to the US, which I'll be using as our main example throughout the presentation, as many of you are tuning in from the US, I see, I think you'll find that we're very competitive with institutions here and might even save you a lot of some money or perhaps a lot of money for looking at some out-of-state and private institutions. We have a world-class education system. Some of our undergraduate degrees can be completed in 3 years. Some of our master's degrees can be completed, actually the most of our master's degrees can be completed in 1 year because we have a more focused degree. So it will save you time, will save you money. In addition, we have scholarships, and that's something I'm going to talk to a bit more later in the presentation as well. Another one is that the curriculum might not be what you need to succeed, whether in career, if you wanted to come back and live in the States, for example, or whether you wanted to stay in Europe or go and live in Shanghai or one of hundreds and thousands of other places. The fact of the matter is that University College Dublin is a top 1% research institution. That means that we are very competitive with the Ivies and junior Ivies here in the States, that we are very well ranked, and that wherever you take your degree after studying with us, it's going to take you quite far. Looks like we have another question coming in. And this is it possible to study abroad at our university for 1 semester? Certainly. So in addition to full degrees, we also have an immense amount of study abroad students. Those are students that are enrolled in a U.S. institution or an institution all over the world for that matter, who come over for 1 semester or 1 academic year. That's a very popular way to come over and experience a bit of Dublin life and a bit of UCD life. Your first step, if you're interested in that, will be visiting your domestic international office at your home university. I'll talk a little bit more about that and some opportunities for you later here. So thanks for that question, Amanda. So as far as some other myths, another one is that it's too difficult to do your full degree or to do a semester abroad. And I'm happy to say that's simply not the case. Increasingly, more and more students are doing their full degrees, and I think you'll find that the application process is quite similar to what you might be used to here, if not more simple. We're on a rolling basis, and I'll touch a bit more on the application process, but it's quite easy. I think you'll find that, of course, there's always big decisions to be made about where to go and study, but that it's too difficult to come to UCD is simply not one that should factor in. And in fact, that's my job, to make sure that it's not difficult. So again, please use me as a resource going forward. So at this point, really you can expect that you're going to get a high quality degree, world-class standards, and an absolutely global perspective. So I hope that I've dispelled some of the myths so that we can move forward and talk about why you should and how you can study at University College Dublin. So at UCD, you certainly distinguish yourself as a top 1% university, regardless of what you're studying. And I see we have a question there about our medical program. Certainly some expertise at University College Dublin is our medical program, which you can study as an undergraduate student or a postgraduate student. Anything in the life sciences, additionally things in the arts, in the history. James Joyce, one of the most famous of the Irish authors, went to University College Dublin. Half of our prime ministers, or Taoiseachs, as we call them in Irish, went to University College Dublin. And also, we outpunch our weight in business. We're Ireland's leading business school, and we have very interesting degrees in international commerce, as well as every expertise you could imagine. Those are just the tip of the iceberg of programs we offer. We have expertise in the social sciences, in engineering, across all of our sciences, just to name a few of our programs. So here we have a question from Casey, thanks Casey, about how long you're able to stay in the dorms for. Certainly on-campus accommodation is something that we are very happy to be able to promise to our full degree students coming over. It is very nice accommodation, and I'll have some pictures for you a little bit later on that. However, we can promise that as a first year student you will have on-campus housing. After that, we can't promise it. However, you're welcome to go into the lottery for it. In general, about 6,000 students do live on campus. Many students after their first year might choose to move off campus to save a little bit of money, as well as to perhaps to live on one of the apartment complexes right around campus, or even live in downtown Dublin. Often students also rent houses and have that experience of living in a house with a bunch of other college students, so that's a unique experience as well. But we're happy to promise that you will have housing if you are a North American student coming for a full degree. So some of these we've more or less touched on. I just want to say too that you'll find that Ireland and Dublin especially is a quite connected world. I mean, what you'll find is that you'll hear languages from all over. You'll hear and meet people without leaving campus who have very interesting stories and lives and pasts. You'll be encouraged to study abroad within your degree. In addition, please know that we have an immense amount of student supports. Touching on the fact that we do have on-campus housing, whether it's dorms or apartments, I think you're going to find that you'll be well supported in every capacity as a student, not just academically. So overall, what does our university look like? We're just under 25,000 students, and of those, 75% are undergraduate students, and about 8,000 of those are postgraduate students. We have 5,000 international students who you would be joining, so that makes us very good at international student support. We have a very modern campus, old mixed with new, right outside Dublin city center. So I think you'll find that it's a nice medium between having, the nice student center and the things that you would expect on a modern campus, great facilities, great labs, trading floor in our business school, Bloomberg Analytics, all of that, outstanding theaters, and yet you also can, in a few minutes, jump on a bus and be in downtown Dublin, which of course is a city unto itself. 50% of the population of Dublin is under the age of 25 at present, so that makes it a very great place, I think, to be a student, and certainly constantly things going on. In addition, we have very flexible degrees. I'll talk about the structure of our degrees more in a minute, but please know that whatever you'd like to study, most cases we will offer it at UCD as a large institution. In addition, we have an immense amount of ability to specialize within those degrees because we are a large research institution. At a postgraduate level, you'll find the sky's the limit as far as what we can offer you. In addition, I want you to know that we do have peer as well as academic advisors, and that, as I mentioned, studying abroad and work experience really are built into our degrees, much more so than you would find in a U.S. institution. And because of that, I think you'll find you'll develop links to industry, links all over the world, and things that will just launch you into a whole nother realm as a student who is interested in, or who is interested already in something a bit more global. Our alumni tell us that when they do their degrees full with us from outside of Ireland, it's often the first question they're asked in a college or in a career setting in their first interviews is, tell me about this experience. What did you learn? How did you challenge yourself? And I can tell you, I think that even from my perspective, it really did help me get not just this job, but my job prior as well. So I can't speak enough for it. I think you'll find that it's a quite unique experience and a way to push yourself further than just getting a college degree. So as far as the style of our degrees, so we have two different entries into our undergraduate degrees. And this part is going to be focused on our undergraduate degrees. The traditional model in Western Europe, certainly in the UK, as well as in a lot of Ireland, is that you come in with a specific degree in mind. This means that you're not applying to University College Dublin as a whole, but rather to a program in particular. That can be as specific as something like marketing, or English, or economics, biomedical engineering, you name it. Or it can be more general, such as coming into our open arts program, or our open social science, or our open commerce program. If you come into a degree straight like that, our business degrees, our social science, and our arts degrees can be completed in 3 years. That's because we don't have that concept of a general first year, meaning that we don't have a checklist of classes or 101s that you need to take before you can get into the major you're interested in. What that means is that if you're a science student who never wants to take another English class or history class, you don't have to. If you are likewise, if you're a chemistry student who absolutely has an interest in a bit of business or a bit of drama, you're welcome to take those alongside your other classes through your electives. However, we're not going to prescribe them. So in your first year, you're going to start getting real life experience within your degree. I should also mention in this part that undergraduate entry is allowed into our medical school, our vet school, we happen to be the only vet school in Ireland, as well as our law school. What that means is that you can start studying from your first year in those programs. Those are not pre-med or pre-vet or pre-law programs. Those are actually hitting the ground running. So it can be a fast track, although they are quite competitive to get into. So now that I've talked about that direct entry, which is great if you know what you'd like to study, I want to mention for those of you out there who have very different interests, who maybe are kind of interested in engineering, but also really have always had a take into politics or to something like international commerce. Please know that UCD might be a great place for you. Something unique not just to UCD, rather not just in Ireland, but also across all of Europe, is the fact that we have a liberal arts and science entry as well as the direct entry. What that means is that if you would like to sample across our arts, our social sciences, and our business school before declaring your major, you're welcome to. This is very good for students who are undecided or who might have multiple interests, as I mentioned, or would just like to confirm that they're in the right course for them. This degree path is always going to be 4 years, and that's something that makes it slightly different. Additionally, I want to mention that this program is, as I said, not just unique for Ireland, but it's unique across Europe. So it might be something if you're comparing us to some other schools across Europe that might make us different. And so you're welcome to apply either way. However, we do hope you'll apply one or the other and find that UCD's flexible curriculum will work for you. Let's see here. Sorry, just skipped a slide there. I want to jump back here. So as far as kind of more student life there are over 120 clubs and societies. Students really run campus at UCD, and I think you'll find that if you have an interest, and it can be an extremely quirky interest, it can be a very odd interest, I think you'll find that we'll most likely have an outlet for you. There's everything from a tea society, there is a great robust theater, debate clubs, every sport you can imagine, things like quirky things like competitive trampolining, taekwondo, traditional sports, both American sports like American football or American baseball. In which case, if you play one of those, you'll probably be an all-star at UCD because they, of course, don't traditionally grow up playing those. If you play something or have any interest in learning something like an Irish sport or GAA, the Gaelic athletics, I think you'll find that there's so many outlets to do that. Whether you want to try your hand at camogie or hurling, or maybe try your hands at a bit of rugby. There's levels of competition that span, and so whether it's your first time or whether you're a pro, I think you'll find that there's an outlet for you there. Um, in addition, we have an outstanding new student center. We're proud to say that it is the best in Ireland. It has an Olympic-sized swimming pool, brand new 3D movie theater in it, every kind of fitness activity you could imagine, rock climbing wall, all of that. Um, in addition to great meeting spaces for all of our clubs and societies, whether you're doing an academic club, or rather an academic society, or more social ones, something like juggling. The International Student Society happens to be one of our most active on campus, and I'd highly encourage that you get involved with them. They plan some great trips. In addition, University College Dublin has a global lounge that we opened a few years ago that's a Google-style lounge dedicated just to students like yourself who are international students. It's a great place to hang out, chill out. You'll be able to watch any TV station in the world. So if you definitely want to get a group together and have a party for the Super Bowl, the University College Dublin International Office will be having a great party for that. In addition, they have a very well-known Thanksgiving Day celebration, events like that are free and open to you, and I hope you'll take advantage of because it's a great way to kind of tap into some of the culture you might be missing from home. Likewise, because we have students all over the world, you will also be invited to things like a Chinese New Year celebration, or a Tour de France watch party. So you name it. There's immense ways to get involved and to really be an active part of our campus, whether it's through the International Society, through the International Office, or just being a general UCD student who is involved in anything and everything. From the balls at UCD to the music that we bring to campus, those are just some ways. And that's without even touching on the fact that, of course, we have an immense amount that goes on in downtown Dublin, which our students readily get involved in as well. So moving on here, the tuition at University College Dublin. Of course, this is an important question. So in general, our undergraduate tuition is 19,300 US dollars a year. For sciences and engineering, it is 26,000 US dollars a year. I see it lists medicine there. That's a bit of a typo. Medicine is slightly more in that it is studied as an undergraduate degree. So medicine and veterinary would be more than that. They're about 45,000 US dollars a year to apply to medicine and vet. I should also mention that they do have a slightly different application process than the one I'm going to run through because they are quite competitive and we want to make sure you're set up for success. As far as postgraduate studies, these are going to vary depending on what you're studying. One thing to note is that they're usually 1 year top masters. That means that it's really going to save you time and money um, to, uh, to do your degree at University College Dublin. Whether you're doing undergraduate or postgraduate, or even study abroad, the federal aid from the US in the form of FAFSA, if you're familiar with that, does transfer. Sometimes we get a question on GI or veteran benefits. Please note that those seamlessly transfer as well, and that we actually have a dedicated representative in the international office who can work with you and your family on paying for your education. So now that we have the bad news out of the way, I know we had a question about scholarships, and I'm happy to say that we do have scholarships available, especially for our students coming from North America. We call these UCD Global Excellence Scholarships. And at an undergraduate level, the applications, along with our applications to the university as a whole, open November 1st. That means November 1st of your senior year. So as you're applying to US schools, you should also be applying to University College Dublin. To be in the running for these scholarships, you need to be accepted by January 15th. I'll talk to you a bit more about our application process in a minute, but if accepted, the average award is 30 to 50% annual tuition, although we do have a few elite scholarships for 100% tuition. These are instantly renewed over the duration of your study, and we created these recently to continue to attract the best and brightest students from all over the world, regardless of where they're coming from. So we do hope that if you apply, you'll be applying early to be in and to have access to those. The selection for these is based on merit, so predominantly based on your academic performance in high school or in tertiary if you're coming further. In addition, there is a small essay and an interview component for our semifinalists. Okay, so now let's talk about that application process. What does that look like? And how can you, as a student coming from North America, most likely coming from the US based on our participants, what does that look like for you? How hard is it? And I hope I can dispel a lot there and tell you that it's probably easier than you think. So to start off, if you are thinking about for a study abroad, and I know we had a question about that earlier, so for those who are coming over for a semester or a year, your first place to touch base is really going to your international office at your home university, telling them you'd like to study with UCD. They'll walk you through their process there. I'll talk a bit about our high school summer program in a bit too. But for undergraduate, rolling admissions is from November 1st. We can accept applications as late as July. However, I really do not recommend that as courses do tend to fill and get more competitive by then. What I would recommend is that you start getting your ducks in a row if you're considering applying in the next year, and that is getting your high school transcript ready. Generally, we need to see a base minimum of a 3.0 on a 4.0 scale. We also need to see SAT or ACT scores, a minimum of a 1500 SAT or a 22 ACT. I want to pause there and say that those are very much our base minimum courses. So depending on what academic program you're applying to, those can be much more competitive. For example, our average SAT score is about an 1800. Our average GPA is about a 3.4 on a 4.0 scale. If you're an international baccalaureate student or an IB student, please know that we will not require that you take the SAT or the ACT, and that we have a base minimum for you of a 24 expected on your diploma, with at least 3 courses taken at a higher level. If you have no idea what I just said about that IB, don't worry, because the majority of our students will be applying with a traditional U.S. high school diploma. In addition, we'll take into consideration 2 reference letters and a personal statement. College Board or AP scores are certainly taken if you have them available. They're not required for our courses, however, for some of the more competitive ones, it will bode well for you, and certainly for our scholarships as well. Looks like we have a question here. Do you need to take both SAT and ACT? Great question. Thank you, Casey. You do not need to take both. You can take either one, or if you do take both, you're welcome to submit both, or you can submit your higher. At the end of the day, our admissions office, we're going to take your highest anyhow. So it doesn't matter to us which one. We don't prefer one or the other. Also with the IB, if you are taking the IB, you do not need to take the SAT or ACT, but if you do take it, you're welcome to submit it. We will have codes with the College Board as well as with ACT, so you can send your scores electronically just like you would send them to a U.S. school. Glad you brought that question up because it helped me clarify and remember to mention those codes, so thank you. So that's kind of what our process looks like. The beautiful thing is that we are able to turn around our applications within 2 to 3 weeks generally. So if you are submitting by November 1st, it's very possible that you could receive an offer by Thanksgiving. So that's one less offer for you to worry about. We don't tie you to a deadline with that. Instead, you can wait with your offer until as late as May 1. So that's going to allow you a little bit more flexibility. There's no reason not to apply early is what I'm trying to say here, especially when you remember what we just spoke about, which is that scholarships do tend to go within the first batch. And so please do be applying early, and please do be in the running for our UCD Global Excellence Scholarships. Another question here on the ACT or SATs rather. I've taken the SATs twice. Should I send my most recent score because it's higher, or should I send both? Great question. It does not actually matter. So what we will do is we're going to take your highest you've submitted at the time that you apply. So assuming you're a senior, and it sounds like you are, that you've taken the SATs twice, when you submit your application, we will read your application and tie it to your highest SAT results. So if sent from the College Board, they will send us both of those results, and we will just look at the highest. Don't worry, we will not punish you. We will not look at your lowest and say, oh goodness, this one time he or she didn't score quite as high in math. We don't do that. Instead, we want to see, we realize tests can be stressful and sometimes you do better on one or the other. So we'll take your highest. So actually for us, it does not matter. If you, the back of this question, sometimes we get asked if we super score the SATs, meaning that, in your case, for example, since you have one stronger and one weaker SAT, would we take the writing portion from one, the math sections for another? Unfortunately, we cannot do that. So we will take your top comprehensive score. and we will judge you based on that. If, for example, when you're applying, you do not get into your first preference because of your SAT results being slightly short of what are required, we will reach out to you and let you know that, and let you know if you would like to take your SATs again, um, that you would have a chance of getting into that course. So the nice thing to know is that it's not the end all be all if you are submitting early, even though you know you might be retaking the SAT down the line. We're not going to punish you for that. And instead, we're going to open up a dialogue for you because we want you to have your best hat in the rink. And so that's how our application process is set up. One thing I want to mention on our application process that's slightly different than in the US is that students are going to apply to, in particular, programs. So this kind of goes back to the slides a few slides ago, talking about our different approaches that you can come in directly to a degree program. So let's say commerce, which we happen to be Ireland's leading business school, certainly well ranked across Europe and across the US as well. With that, you would have three preferences. So in applying on your UCD application, sure, you could say my number one preference is international commerce. My number two preference is a basic commerce degree. And my number three preference might be that liberal arts and sciences approach to a commerce degree. All three will allow you access to the Quinn School of Business, which is, like I said, the leading in Ireland. However, it's going to give you three options. Please know that when you're filling out your application, your application will be read based on your preferences. So if international commerce is your first preference, please make sure that it is number one, because that's the first one we're going to read. Likewise, if liberal arts and sciences is your first, make sure that's number one and not number three, because we're going to read your application and our admissions team's first going to look at your first preference, look at your SATs, your ACTs, or your transcript, or your IB, and see if you make the cut for that program. If you do, we're not going to look at your other preferences. We're going to issue that offer letter. If you do not, we will look at your second preference and then your third. If you're unsure which program fits you and what credentials you need for whichever program, that's when you reach out to my office, and ucd.ie/international will have my full contact information, as well as it's listed in our booth. We can help you walk through and help you preference which ones might be best for your application. Please let us know if you have any questions throughout the application process. That's why we're here, and we're happy to do it. So let's see. As far as postgraduate, for those of you who are tuning in, maybe interested in postgraduate, please know that the applications are taken in rounds. The first round is December 15th. I always encourage early applicants at a postgraduate level too, pardon me, in that if you're a master's student or a PhD program student, PhD candidate, please know that those courses can be quite competitive and might be very small. So why not be applying early? Just like for our undergraduates, you'll be in the better sitting for scholarships, as well as a better sitting to get into more competitive programs. Whether you're applying to undergraduate or postgraduate, or even study abroad, the place to start is at our website, which is www.ucd.ie/apply. Additionally, information for you to navigate our application as a North American student can really be best found on an international website. So you'll see with links all over for non-EU students like yourself, and certainly as well, you could go directly to www.ucd.ie/international. Great questions. Please keep them coming because they're reminding me of things I should be saying. And if you have the question, I'm sure someone else does too. So thank you again for the questions so far. So as far as high school summer program, we've been getting increasingly more and more students that want to come over and try out UCD and see if the academic fit might be right for them. What's different, what's the same, that kind of thing. So with that, we developed a high school summer program. The high school summer program has a few components to it. As far as the academics, you'll take a course in Irish history and culture. That's going to be taught across our full-time faculty. That's something that will be very different than a lot of high school programs you might look at here in the States. In addition, you'll have an immersion day in the business, sciences, engineering, and architecture to see if you might be able to try your hand. You'll see off to the right there that there are a lot of breakout field trips. So a lot of this is based on kind of field trips and social activities, not just academics. So hopefully you'll walk away knowing a lot about Irish culture and history. In addition, the majority of students who are coming on to this are high school sophomores going into their junior year or juniors going into their senior year. You will live on campus, so you'll get to see our dorms. And the upcoming dates for this are the 10th through the 25th of July, 2014. Our applications are open and may be found at that link. The course itself is capped at 50 students, and I think you'll find those spots are going to go quickly. So if you are interested, consider applying soon. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to answer questions for you. Looks like we have a question there coming in. Let's see. Coming in, a student who is formerly in the military who's considering doing a degree abroad. Please know that you are certainly highly encouraged to apply to do a degree at UCD as a veteran. Whether you're coming on VA benefits or GI Bill benefits, we've seen it all, and we have students each year that do. It's fully covered, fully supported. There's another question here from Amanda. Thank you. The price of the summer program is $2,300 US for the 2.5-week program. That's going to include housing, tuition, as well as all your cultural and social events, as well as all meals. So it's a pretty inclusive price. The only thing it doesn't include, Amanda, is your flights over. So that's something to take into effect as well. There is an early bird discount too if you are applying prior to February 15th. So think about getting that application in sooner than later if you're interested in that. Okay, so we'll move on now. And just to say here, please stay connected. And this is a slide that I want to leave up for a little while, just because it has a lot of good material in it. So I'm going to leave this slide up for a little while, and I'm going to take some of the questions here that we haven't gotten to yet. Then I'll hit on kind of how you can stay connected. And I hope that you might jot some of these down or make sure to visit them later because they're great resources going forward. I hope that we've covered a lot of things today and we'll continue to cover it. We've got about 20 minutes left for discussion. However, I want to be sure that going forward, you know how to reach me if you have any questions. Again, I'm located in the New York City office and my contact information is at the bottom there. Also, there's other areas for you to get very actively involved and see what life is like in UCD and Dublin, what the academics are like, as well as what the social life is like. We have a question here from Joey. Joey is asking whether or not it's required to get a visa and what that process looks like. Joey, I'm glad you asked that question. That's something that we get asked often. And please know that actually, as a student coming from North America, students are not required to have a student visa. This makes us very rare across all of Europe. So a lot of students assume that they'd have to get a visa, which can be expensive and can be a lot of red tape. Because of the unique relationship between the US and Ireland, students are not required to have a visa. So instead, we'll make sure with pre-departure information that all international students get, that you'll understand what you need to get ready to come over and see us in Ireland. When you arrive at the airport, you really just need to have your acceptance letter. You will also need proof that you do have health insurance to enter the country. But these are all things we'll get you nice and squared up for. Then once you're in through the airport, you actually will have 30 days to register with the Immigration Bureau. We'll help you do that. We actually have appointments that we set up for all of our international students. Again, we have 5,000 international students. We're very good at doing this part. So please know that we're going to make sure that you're registered and squared away. Students are also highly encouraged to take a part-time job if they'd like. Many students like to do that to have a little spending money. In addition, you can also take a job part-time during the school year as well as full-time over the summer. So if you have an internship or like to stay over over the summer, please know that you'll have no restrictions to work a full-time job then. Looks like we have a question here. And let's see, I'm just scanning through it. Thanks, Lindsay. Got your question here. Okay, so Lindsay happens to be what we refer to as a mature student. A mature student is over the age of 23, and we have a lot of students who come to us later to do their full degrees with us. The great thing for students like yourself who are over the age of 23 is that we will look at your application in a very holistic way. So I'm assuming that you've had, sounds like you have an excellent GPA, which is great. But we're not just going to look at your academics. We'll also look at what experience you would bring to the classroom and what things you've done outside in your time since you were last in school. So Lindsay, please know that in addition to our traditional application, which I kind of walked through a little bit here earlier, that you can find information on at www.ucd.ie/apply, that you will be considered a mature applicant. And so there's a link there for mature applicants where you'll get to share a lot more of your experience so we can be a bit more holistic when looking at candidates like yourself. Whether coming as an undergraduate student or a postgraduate student, please know that we get an immense amount of students who do come to us a bit later in life. So you would certainly not be alone with that. And I think you might find it would be a good fit for you, as we have a crazy amount of diversity, not just in ethnicity and nationality, but also in age diversity. Thanks for that question, Lindsay. One other thing I want to mention is that if you were a student who was coming to University College Dublin, you arrived at that airport, how does that look and how do we help you transfer to campus? Because we do have such robust student services for our international students, we're actually going to meet you at the airport. We have an airport welcome for you there. You'll come to campus a week prior to classes starting, where we'll have a full orientation for you to make sure that you know how to do everything from ride the Dublin bus into campus and around rather into the city, as well as around campus, as well as do things like open an Irish bank account if you'd like to, settle in, make sure that you have a walking tour of downtown Dublin. We'll also have social programs. All of these are, of course, optional, but they're a great opportunity to get to know the other very international student body we have going on. There we will have open mic nights, we will have barbecues. If nothing else, it's a free meal, so can't beat that, right? So it's a great way to get to know all the students from 125 different countries. That's all before your academic orientation. During your academic orientation, you'll meet your academic advisor. Advising is a big part of the academic life at University College Dublin. And with that, you also get a peer advisor. Regardless of what area you're studying, whether you're studying chemistry or psychology or HR or international relations, you name it, you're going to get a peer advisor as well. That person will help guide you and be a good reference for you, whether you're struggling academically and need someone to reach out to, or whether you just want to know which professors to take and maybe which ones you might want to avoid. So, not that there's many of those, but it's always good to have a sounding board in the form of another student. And so I think that's something nice to have, is that aspect of peer advising. Please keep the questions coming. These are all very good, so thank you for the recent questions. They jog my memory on other things that I should be covering, and so I'm happy to do that. As far as other resources for you going forward after this discussion, Is this the right fit for you? You don't have to take my word for it. You know, some of you I've had the pleasure of speaking to today or in other times. Of you I hope I'll have the chance to down the line. Let me kind of help you figure that out, but also don't take my word for it. At the end of the day, this is a big decision for you, for your family, and we want it to be the right one. Because of that, we have student blogs that I think do a great job of telling you, kind of from outside the administration, what it's like to be a student. And so I think I'd just like to highlight that we have wonderful student blogs that Education in Ireland help administer. We don't tell them what to write. We don't tell them what to talk about. They can talk about whatever they'd like, whether it's what they do on an average Saturday night or what clubs and societies they're involved in, how they're settling in, what things they've found difficult, the nerves going into the first finals, for example, things of that nature. So it really covers the gamut. Additionally, many of them have their contact information. So if you'd like to speak to one of them directly, you're more than welcome to. Additionally, you can reach out to me or one of my colleagues and we can put you in touch with someone. That link, by the way, is up on the Stay Connected platform there, and that's educationinireland.ie. Look for the student blogs there. Additionally, we have a great amount of resources on our own international student website. Our general UCD website has a great amount of information, but wow, is it big. So please, I think you'll find it a lot easier to navigate if you visit our international website. It's going to instantly recognize what country you're coming from and be able to have that information that translates to you most directly. That way, you'll be able to get exactly what you're looking for quicker than just trying to find it on our general website. One resource in particular that I'd like to point out is the International Student Handbook. The International Student Handbook is going to cover anything and everything that you might want to ask and perhaps questions you didn't even know you had. So everything from, hey, I'm coming to campus early, what kind of hostels can I stay in prior to coming to UCD? Or, basics like what does health insurance look like over there? On that note, by the way, health insurance is a great savings in Ireland compared to over here. General health insurance for a student is about €150 or about 200 US dollars for the entire year. I think you'll find that's probably what your parents are paying about per month, you or your parents rather, are paying about per month if you have health insurance here in the States. We also have health clinics all over campus, and students are taken very good care of if they do, heaven forbid, have a emergency or need just a basic checkup. So those things are for a very small price. You could do a walk-in clinic if you've got a cold or a sinus infection or something like that. And additionally, we do have a hospital right adjacent to campus as well if you did need those types of services. That brings me to another question here, and this is a great one, safety in Dublin. So I'm happy to say that Dublin is an extremely safe city. Dublin and Ireland in general is certainly known as being warm and friendly, and that's all well and good. But I think it's as important that we're not just one of the top most friendly nations in the world, consistently by places like Lonely Planet, but that we're extremely safe. And this is something your parents will love to hear as well, I'm sure, and your families will love to hear. But the fact of the matter is that there's really not a sense of violent crime in Dublin. Even though it is a large city, we don't have that concept of violent crime in Ireland. Certainly, petty theft does exist and does happen, unfortunately, now and again, as it would in any city. However, I think indicative of the types of issues that they're generally dealing with, our police officers, even in downtown Dublin, don't carry guns, don't carry firearms because there's no concept of that. They don't need them. So I think that speaks higher than anything else. Additionally, just most recently, we were ranked number 8th as far as number 8th in the Peace Index as safest countries in the world. So again, don't have to take my word for it. There are outside indicators out there to speak to the safety on campus. We, of course, do have a campus police force, In addition, Dublin City Police do patrol our campus as well. So I think let's see, I think there was one other question recently that I just didn't have not covered quite yet. Class size. So this is a very good question. University College Dublin is a large institution. Because of that, we have expertise across all fields, 25,000 students, 17,000 undergraduates. But I think one nice thing about UCD is that in addition to that, we do have very small tutorials, which are small breakout classes that allow you to discuss the material. So even if you in your first year, you have some lectures, and lectures can be up to 200, 250 students max. You will also have very small labs, some as small as, 6 to 10 people. In addition, if you have a lecture, which are those larger ones, imagine kind of your more traditional model of an expert in their field talking to a lecture theater of students, then you will have a second class that meets that same week on the same topic. It's going to be a breakout out of about 30 students or less. That's where you'll do group presentations, you'll do speeches, you'll really digest the material, debate it, and talk it out. Additionally, if you are a student that knows you like smaller classes better and you do better in that setting, you like that discussion, you're more of that kind of learner, then you can register for more tutorials, which are those smaller discussion-based classes. Alternatively, if you're a student who is more into the idea of the lectures and has, enjoys having that access to top professors, and is a learner that kind of likes hearing the material out loud and being able to digest it at their own pace, then you might sign up for more lectures. So part of that is how you decide and how you register for your classes. Again, UCD, we pride ourselves on having a pretty flexible curriculum. And so because of that, I think you'll find that it can be adjusted according to your preferences and to your learning style. So thank you, Dylan. That was a great question. We've got about 10 more, well, short of 10 minutes left here. So please do keep any questions coming. And in the meantime, I'll just run through some other frequently asked questions. But pop in and ask yours if you have it. And like I said, I'd like to keep this nice and interactive. Thanks again for sharing some of your Thursday with us here. So as far as another thing that I frequently get asked, it's asked by students, do I need to speak Irish? And this is something that is required for our domestic students. They have to come in with a basic understanding of Irish. But as far as what courses we require for students coming from outside Ireland, we certainly do not require you to speak any Irish. That being said, the Irish language is still a nationally recognized language in Ireland. And so you'll see that all of our signs, and certainly University College Dublin being a public institution, you'll see even on campus, you'll see that will both be in English and in Irish. For students, and certainly I as a student coming from Ohio had no idea how to speak any Irish, or some people call it Gaelic. I had no trouble. Trust me, you'll have to go a bit out of your way to hear it. You'll hear it every once in a while, but certainly you're not going to have a class that's going to be spoken in Irish. Additionally, you're not going to need to worry about um, difficulty in understanding, I think, most anyone, especially in the Dublin area. That being said, the great thing is, as part of the International Society and part of an international student benefit, we will have breakout trips that are optional and open to you as an international student to go over to the West Coast and go to Guelta, where you will see kind of a Irish-speaking district and have a bit more historic Ireland right in front of you there. And the west coast of Ireland is where you tend to see more Irish speakers as a whole. Other breakout trips throughout Ireland that are included for international students, and I would encourage you to get involved in them, will take you to places like Galway, down south to Cork, up to Belfast. And one thing to note is that it's amazing. I mean, within Dublin, Dublin's located so centrally within Ireland that you can get anywhere really from Dublin, including in Northern Ireland, which is a separate country, part of the UK, within about 2.5 hours max. Public transportation is outstanding. Students generally do not have cars, so you don't need to worry about how you're going to get around. Public transportation can get you most anywhere. And actually, Dublin is one of the most cycled cities in the world. So with that, you'll find that there's really no difficulty to get anywhere. And certainly spend some weekends doing some unique things. Question here, maybe prompted by the travel, is how easy is it to get to mainland Europe? So I'm glad you asked this. There's actually a shuttle that runs from campus about every 15 minutes that takes you to the Dublin airport. So whether you're going home for over the holiday break or whether you would like to spend your weekend in Sevilla, Spain, please know that you'll be able to get to the Dublin airport for very cheaply with this shuttle very easily. 20 minutes, about 20 minutes from campus is the Dublin airport. Dublin airport is a very big international airport and has hubs of two airlines, Aer Lingus, as well as the budget aircraft and savior to most students' budgets, Ryanair. Ryanair is the main way I'd say that students do tend to get around Europe, and certainly myself as a student took the opportunity to travel an immense amount through it. With Ryanair, you'll find that air travel across Europe is extremely discounted. Um, you can do things for about 30 euro or about 40 US dollars round trip even to places like, Amsterdam, Milan, all across anywhere you name it, Poland, Greece, France, Germany, you name it. And just think, I mean, as a student myself, originally from Ohio, if I did a 2-hour trip, I would find myself from Cincinnati, Ohio, into Columbus, Ohio. Both great cities, don't get me wrong, but when I was in Ireland, I could do 2 hours and I found myself in Madrid. 2 hour or an hour and a half, and I could be in a place like Brussels. An hour in over the ferry or a flight, I could be in London. I mean, it's a great opportunity. It's something that even if you do, compared to your friends back home who might stay here and do their degrees here, I think you're going to find the opportunities that come to you are quite outstanding. They're there for you to seize. And I think for the fact that you were tuning in today, you're probably the type of student who wants to take advantage of that. It's not for every student, but I'll tell you what, for the student who's ready for it, I think it can be an outstanding world-changing experience. So I'm delighted that you took the time to kind of chat with us today. Thanks again for all those great questions, and I look forward to staying in touch with you. Please do take down my email address there, even my phone number. Reach out to me with any questions going forward. Thanks so much again for your time, and we really hope that we'll see you in Dublin and have you as a student at one point or another at University College Dublin. Until then, have a great day, and thank you very much again for tuning in. Bye now.